Take it away, guys.
Good evening, folks. I hope you're having a good Monday night. I'm enjoying myself. We got a good show scheduled for you tonight. And if you thought that sounded bad to y'all out there, you should have heard it in Skype. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was a little muffled.
That was my wife, by the way, of 34 years. So I had to put a plug in for her for doing it for me. Mark, what you got going here tonight? You got a guest I think is going to be very interesting.
Oh, yeah. We have Tim Swartz. He's good friends with Rick Osmond, but we'll give him some airtime anyways.
Yeah, Rick. We like Rick. Rick's
Tim is an Emmy Award-winning TV producer, author of a children's book, Day of the Not-So-Awful Children, paranormal researcher, co-host of the Outer Edge webcast on PSN Radio Network, and a commentator for Ancient Aliens. How you doing, Tim? Did you have a nice weekend?
Oh, I'm doing great, Mark. Yes, I did. Thank you very much. And I should tell our audience that I've written more than just the children's book Day of the Not So Awful Children. That was kind of a what would you call it? Just, like not a spur of the moment thing, but just something I wanted to try to do. It's illustrated using Photoshop and just a little fun side project. Mostly I write about things like Nikola Tesla, time travel, UFOs, ghosts, things like that. So,
Is it possible we could turn back time and start over?
Would you really want to? I mean,
I would
seriously
probably make every mistake again the same way, so it probably wouldn't really matter.
That's right. I mean, that's something that a lot of people ask me, though, is like, oh man, I'd love to be able to travel to time and go back and correct some of the mistakes, that we all make, especially, like when we're dumb kids. And it's like, yeah, well, those are the things that actually made you what you are today. And I mean, unless you're just really upset about the way you are today, it's like the butterfly effect. If you could go back and make changes, would that make things better for you now, or would it make them worse? Yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of possibilities of what could happen to you.
I hear that. What's the name of your time travel book?
It's called Time Travel: Fact Not Fiction. Right. It's published by Global Communications, and my publisher is Timothy Green Beckley.
Oh yeah, I know. That's Mr. UFO, isn't it?
That's right. He's published all my books over the years.
We're going to try and get him to come on a show one day here shortly.
Well, I tell you something. You get Timothy Green Beckley on, and you'll never be able to get a word in edgewise.
Well, that's what we like, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah. Just turn it over to the guest, and I've enjoyed a few shows like that where you just had to tell them to stop, and if they don't stop, the next show starts, and it was an easy night.
Yeah, you say, good evening, our guest is, and then you say, I hope you enjoyed the show.
That's right. Well, that's the type of guy that Timothy Green Beckley is. I mean, you give him one question, and he'll talk about that and everything else that comes to his mind through the rest of the show. Kind of a stream of consciousness guest.
Oh, there's nothing wrong. We got a show called that here at the station, believe it or not.
Stream of Consciousness?
Yes, sir.
I like that. Yeah, that's a great title.
Well, Mark, I know you're itching to ask questions. You pre-prepared.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Great for them.
Yeah, Tim, I was wondering, how did Prometheus Entertainment get hold of you and invite you to provide your commentaries for Ancient Aliens? I know your partner Mike Mott that was a guest with us probably about 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Said his debut is going to be was it Friday the 31st?
Yeah, Halloween night.
Yeah, and you've appeared on several episodes. How'd they, Giorgio, find out about you? And what was all the behind the scenes stuff of getting on Ancient Aliens?
Right. Well, it wasn't Giorgio that got a hold of me. It was one of the
his minions.
Yeah, one of the producers who emailed me and was asked me some questions over email about various topics they had run across. I think that initially they were interested. They were going to be doing a show called the Tesla Experiment, which actually ran. Its first run was the 1st of August, I think is when it was. And as we emailed back and forth, they kind of discovered that I could talk about just about anything, and so they had a number of different episodes that they were working on, and they basically just asked me if I could comment about say like mysterious islands, strange mountains, stargates. Let's see, underground mysteries, things like that. And I'm like, sure. And so they just, they sent me a list of questions, and I went over them. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with these questions. I mean, if you promise me that you're not going to go and take my responses out of context, then I would be more than happy to appear on Ancient Aliens. Over the years, I've been approached by a number of different programs, and practically every one of them, they have a certain thesis in mind for whatever program that they, had initially contacted me about, and they were wanting me to come on and basically, confirm this, whatever the subject was, whatever thesis. There was one show that, and I'm not going to tell you what the name of it was, but they were doing a program on the space shuttle. What was it? It was the Columbia disaster, the one that broke up over Texas as it was coming in for reentry. And they were wanting to know if, say, like a HARP, the HARP array in Alaska, there had been rumors going around that the HARP array had actually shot it down using some kind of electromagnetic beam or anything like that. And I had in an earlier book and some articles, I had speculated on that, but they just basically wanted me to come on and just say, yeah, that's exactly what happened. HARP aimed their beam at him and blew him out of the sky. And I'm like, I'm not going to say that. No, well, I mean, it's it's
closer to slander.
It was almost, yeah, and I'd say, I'd be more than happy to come on and say, there have been people who made that suggestion and offered up some compelling evidence, but I can't say that is, definitely what happened. But that's what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to come on there and say, yes, that's definitely what happened, and present the the so-called evidence on it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of programs that, I mean, they're just interested. Well, I mean, face it. I mean, they all are. They're all interested in selling advertising. And so they're going to go with subject matters that are going to grab the most attention. And unfortunately, most of the time, that kind of attention grabbing is the most...
profitable and
exploitive, possibly.
Yeah,
it would be a better
listener numbers.
Right. Well, I mean, you see a lot of these shows. I mean, the advertisements
we live these shows.
yeah. Well, the advertisements that they have, before the show actually comes on. Did Bigfoot actually rape his daughter? Something like that. Tune in tonight.
See, we don't have any kind of advertisement here at the station, so nobody can tell us what we can talk about.
But Prometheus Entertainment. I mean, they treated me right. I mean, they actually flew me out to Los Angeles. For a while they were doing some shooting in some cities relatively close by to where I live, and they're trying to set me up to see if maybe I could go, like drive to Cincinnati or Nashville or places like that. But they were hitting a deadline, so it was just better for them just to fly me out to L.A. And they talked to me for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I think is what it was, and just asked me all kinds of different questions. And they cut them all apart, and I ended up on probably about 4 or 5 different episodes. And in fact, I'm going to be, I guess from what I've been told now, I'm going to be on the October 31st show as well, along with Mike Mott. I have no idea, what they're going to use. I talked a little bit at one point about Richard Shaver and the Shaver mystery. And his whole thing with the underground caverns and the Diros and Tiros.
You're talking about the guy that supposedly was shot by an alien?
No, Richard Shaver. He first came about in the early 1940s when he sent a letter to the old pulp science fiction magazine called Amazing Stories, and I think it was. His original article was called A Warning to Future Man. And the editor first just tossed it in the trash. And one of the other editors, a guy by the name of Ray Palmer, fished it out and said, hey, this has potential. The guy is by no means a great writer. So Palmer rewrote it with some of the other in-house writers that they had and released it in the magazine called, the article is called I Remember Lemuria. And the whole thing is that, and Richard Shaver, I mean, he always contended that this was true. That a million years or so ago, the Earth was inhabited by an elder race, basically they were extraterrestrials that had landed here at one time and found the Earth pretty good place to live. And then at one point, the sun became radioactive and was spewing out radioactive particles, which it's still doing today, which this antediluvian race couldn't stand. So most of them packed back up into their spaceships and flew away. There was a group that remained behind, and they chose instead to go into the underground caverns. That some of them were natural, some of them were created by them to try to wait it out. And unfortunately, living in those caverns all this time basically mutated them, and they became what Shaver called the Diro, which stood for detrimental robots, as he.
I confuse him with Snyder.
Oh yeah.
Paul Snyder.
Paul Snyder, yeah. Paul Schneider.
Yeah, Tim, these underground cities are not just a somewhat modern kind of science fiction ramblings by Richard Shaver. I mean, it's mentioned in the Book of Revelation. I think that's the right New Testament book. I mean,
possibly. My knowledge of the books of the Bible aren't nearly as complete as, say, like Mike Mott. Mike Mott could, he'd be the guy to ask. There is some scripture, I think, more from the Old Testament, and especially like
that's even older.
Yeah, and possibly even some of the books that aren't included in the what we consider the canon. Maybe like the writings of Ezekiel that talks about the caverns. I'm not quite sure what the wording exactly is, but yeah, I mean, and
In several places it mentions from in the earth
Right.
instead of on the earth.
Hmm.
I think that's what you're referring to.
Hmm. But I mean, we know for a fact. I mean, the Earth is crisscrossed with interesting underground structures, so to speak. South America is lined with them. I mean, they're all over the place. Most of them are pretty much inaccessible at this point. But a lot of people haven't tried uh, uh, getting that deep into them. And of course, here in the United States, I mean, there's been all kinds of rumors for years about the American military constructing their own underground tunnels, especially out west, around Area 51, Dulce, New Mexico, places like that. And a lot of times the rumor has it that they connect with these underground caverns that are already there, pre-existing. I don't know if you're familiar with the author um, 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 Walter Bosley.
No, I'm not.
Um, he wrote an article for Fate magazine, and he said that his dad, who was a member of the military, was actually part of a group that was brought in to take care of the Roswell, the craft that crashed at Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than being an extraterrestrial visitor, Walter Bosley's dad told him that this craft was was an airship from an underground civilization that was located, at least the cavern that particular ship came from was located fairly close to Roswell, out there in the Southwest. And it was his job and part of another team to take the survivors of this craft back. Back to their people. They had the United States government had made an agreement, with these underground dwellers that they would take these, the survivors back. And he said that the underground people were basically human, but they had branched off from Homo sapiens quite a while back in the past. So they were basically like cousins to the human race. And while somewhat technologically superior to us, but not that much. They had aircraft that was superior to ours at the time. That almost appeared to be like anti-gravity and and a higher technology, but a lot of it was kind of show, so to speak. That they weren't that far advanced of us.
Do you remember the name of the Walter Bosley's book?
Oh, he's had a number of different books. He wrote this article for Fate magazine. I can't remember just exactly what the article was. It came out, probably like in the early 2000s. Let's see here. Right now I tell you something, and he'll love me for telling you this. He has got a series of excellent books right now called Empire of the Wheel. And I think he's there are.
Yeah, I know. I'm in like about the fourth or the fifth one.
Right. There's Empire of the Wheel, an investigation of occult espionage and murder. There's Espionage in the Wheel 2, Friends from Sonora. Empire of the Wheel 3, The Nameless Ones.
The Nameless Ones, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's his most. I think his most recent one.
Since we made contact with you today, the picture you have on your Skype, I have to ask, it's a spacesuit, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Um,
have you been to space?
no,
Oh,
no.
I'm just checking. You- I lost
No.
track with Armstrong, you know.
That actually was taken at a place in Orlando, Florida called what was it? It was like House of Mystery. You know, it's one of these like tourist trap types of places, almost like um, Ripley's Believe It or Not type of museum.
Well, I had to ask just in case.
No, it's a good looking picture. Well, I mean, there's a picture of myself, my wife, and my 8 year old daughter, in the spacesuit, as well. So that I tell you something. Ever since I was a little kid, always had been a dream of mine, though, to be able to go into space. I mean, when I was growing up in the '60s. There it it seemed like that was going to be a possibility for our generation.
I thought so too. Now,
Yeah.
I watched all the moon missions go up. I lived right there in Titusville, and
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was pretty exciting.
I would have killed to be able to have seen the Saturn V's go up.
Oh, they were awesome.
Yeah.
Even from several miles away, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I would have loved to have seen, even the space shuttles go
I
up.
even got to eat out of a microwave oven before they were commercialized.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
I knew a few people who had worked there. My parents did, I should say.
Ha.
Got
Wow.
to go out there a couple of times beforehand, before flights and stuff. It was pretty awesome. See, you're at the age where I was. To me, the astronauts were the last true American heroes. We
Yep.
haven't had one since.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't. I mean, and that's the unfortunate thing. The astronauts that are going up now, in the International Space Station. I mean, when we were kids, we knew the astronauts by their names. How many kids now could tell you the name of any of the American astronauts currently?
Probably not too many.
I'm an adult and couldn't tell you. I just know they keep going up there.
Yeah, yeah.
I have spoke with McCullough. He was one of the astronauts
Mm-hmm.
on the space station. I was able to have a conversation with him one time.
Really?
I would love to go to space.
Yeah, I know. I think with me, unless they come up with something really quick that would make going up in the space a lot easier than it is now, I'm afraid it's not going to happen for me.
They'd tell me I wasn't tall enough.
Well, I always wear glasses too, so
You're not tall. You're not tall enough to ride this ride.
nope. Nope. I mean, when we were kids, I mean, I remember that Disney had produced this short animated film that they'd bring in and show it to you, in class. And they had those like the early Werner von Braun type of rockets with the great big fins and stuff that showed how we would be going to the moon and Mars.
I still want my damn floating car.
Yeah, what is it? The jetpacks. Where's our jetpacks?
Yeah, or those too.
They promised. They
Wait a
promised.
minute, this is way over my head. I'm too young for this.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's that's the thing. I mean, we've become so advanced actually when it comes to the space program, even though the American space program is basically crap anymore.
Well, NASA is. They're telling about the black space program.
Oh well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, the kids in the current generation, I mean, they're not going to know about that, and everybody's just kind of blasé about it, unless somebody is willing to get Congress to pony up the money and have a great big, like national program, say to go to Mars, something that would really just inflame the nation. It's going to remain like that.
Kind of like what Kennedy did with going to the moon.
Very much so, very much so. But in this day and age, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, the political infighting has gotten to the point right now that I think it would be really, really difficult to get a project like that going just due to the cost. I mean, you have these senators and congressmen who are vying for election or re-election, and they'll be like, we can't spend money on something
why they're
like
trying
that.
to privatize it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that really is that's probably going to be the only way that a project like that is going to be accomplished, unless somebody comes forward finally and says, these chemical rockets that we have, those are so 20th century. We've actually been flying around in a field production craft. Or a field propulsion craft for a number of years now, and we've got something even better that we're not going to tell you about. So we're going to let you see these field propulsion craft.
I fully agree with you. I believe that about 80 to 90% of what people see as UFOs are more probably and most likely our own. I mean, I'm not saying there's not UFOs. I'm saying most of them we see are probably ours.
Yeah, Thomas. We had Antonio Paris talking about the same thing. He never said there weren't UFOs. It was just probably 97% of the photos are some kind of glare off the sun, a mistaken military craft, but they.
I don't think there's no mistaking them. I mean, we have them big triangular ones,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but a lot of these people, they're trying to convince you that like the old U-2 planes, that they were 100% responsible for the UFO sightings that were going on.
No.
No. I mean, there are. And I'm like you. I mean, I agree that there are unidentified aerial phenomena going on that cannot be attributed to man-made objects, whether they're extraterrestrial, time machines, dimensional crafts, floating, atmospheric jellyfish. Who knows? But there is definitely a mysterious element to some of these aircraft.
I like how you put that. Jellyfish.
Oh well, I mean that's.
I've seen photos and videos that they actually look alive and not created, if you know what I mean.
And there was a writer back in the '60s who, I mean, that was his contention, and he took infrared film and would just go out to the desert and just take pictures, without, I mean, just, into the sky, and would come back. And when he would develop these pictures, there would be, things in the sky that looked almost like amoeba, or like one-celled organisms and stuff. And it was his theory that UFOs, that the majority of UFOs that were being sighted were some kind of living, creature that lived in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and for various reasons, solar storms or whatever, sometimes they would come down a little bit closer.
Or
to
they
the
got
surface.
hungry.
Yeah, or yeah, that's been put across by some science fiction writers too. That's where some of these airplanes have disappeared to.
All right, I got to let Mark ask another question, or he'll get mad.
Oh, I'm just enjoying listening to Tim going on. Yeah, so when you were doing your 2 hours of filming for Ancient Aliens, was say David Hatcher Childress or any of the other people there in the room with you?
Oh no. When they do a shoot like this, they actually did this shoot in a private residence, just on a street in L.A. and that's one of the ways that they do it. I mean, they'll find different houses that have, like a nice looking interiors, and we'll shoot just to keep the background different. If you do a shoot like that in the studio all the time, it can be really difficult to keep the background different and interesting. So they'll go to different venues to shoot these interviews. And what they did the day that they shot me is they had me scheduled for 2 hours, and then they had like two other people. They had one person before me, then they had me, and then they had another person scheduled after I was finished. So no, I mean it's not like it's not like you're in a studio where and everyone's just sitting around waiting to go.
Oh, okay. I just wonder how they did that. And yeah, we do have a question from Vibes from the chat room, and she was wondering if you were familiar with like Tesla's contribution to HAARP.
Mm-hmm.
And how people may have a higher frequency, live in a higher frequency, as Tesla would call it, a higher metal level of radiation. So I just wondering if you knew anything about.
Yeah, I'm not
Tesla and HAARP.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what she's referring to.
I think she meant mental level.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll talk about HAARP first. Well, I mean, when HAARP was originally conceived, I mean, this was quite a while after Tesla had passed away. And the original idea for HAARP came from a gentleman, and gosh, I'll have to try to remember what this guy's name was, and I'll try to think of it in a minute. But Bernard Eastland. He was a Texas physicist, and he was the guy who first got the patents for the HAARP array, and he was actually working for a private company, and he used Tesla's ideas of the wireless transmission of energy, either through the atmosphere or through the ground. And it was his original conception that it was around the time that they were developing the pipeline in Alaska to ship oil out of the oil fields, and that puts a lot of extra money onto the cost of oil production. And he was trying to come up with a way to cut the cost, and it was his concept that you could take that oil right there where it was pumped out of the ground and burn it, create energy from it, like use turbines or whatever like that, some way to generate electricity, and then take that electricity and then beam it throughout into the atmosphere or through the ground, whatever, and then there'd be receivers located all across the planet that could then receive these transmissions of energy and then send that energy to houses or factories or whatever. And it's a great idea. Unfortunately, no one really knows just exactly how Tesla was going to do that. Tesla actually went as far as to build a transmitter on Long Island back around it was like 1902, something along those lines, and he was being funded by J.P. Morgan, And Tesla kind of didn't provide J.P. Morgan with all the information. He told Morgan that this transmitter was going to be like a radio and a kind of a rudimentary television transmitter. And of course, this was when everybody was just starting to get interested in wireless, and Tesla was like, "Hey, I've got the ability to transmit radio at a very high frequency to be able to be received all across the planet. Not like Marconi, who's just sending dots and dashes across the Atlantic using my patents, by the way." and so he built this big transmitter, but actually what he was going to do, and this transmitter, the Wardenclyffe transmitter, would have been able to do all these other things as well. It would have been able to broadcast radio signals and a rudimentary television signal as well. Tesla was working on that. But his main purpose was this was going to be a transmitter of energy. And he would have other arrays all across the planet that would do the same thing. And then he would have receiving units that would then be able to provide basically inexpensive wireless electricity to anybody who wanted it. So, but unfortunately, Tesla kept his secrets very close to his vest, and not really much is known on how he was going to accomplish this. He knew how to do it. He would never have gone as far as to actually start building this transmitter unless he knew, what he was going to do.
From what I hear, they're in the process of building one in Russia.
Oh, they've just as long as they've had the Harper Ray in Alaska, Russia and probably China and who knows who else have had similar operations.
I'm talking about the Tesla machine.
Possibly, a lot.
That's the rumor going around right now, anyways.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me that the United States doesn't have, especially the military, doesn't have something very similar to what Tesla had conceived. I mean, I've heard stories from some very good sources that there are that troops in the field that they can set up like this little receiver, wherever their location is, and turn it on, and it starts generating. It starts picking up electricity from some transmitter that's located, pretty far away. And then they're able to power, like their radios and telephones and anything else right there in the field, based on these receivers of transmitted energy. So yeah, I mean, it would not surprise me that the Russia and other countries don't have something similar to this. But of course, the rest of us aren't going to get access to it because all of the money that that we spend on oil and gasoline and things like that. I mean, that's what's keeping the world basically going and keeping the rich very, very rich and the rest of us extremely poor.
I think that. Go ahead, Thomas.
I was just going to mention Tesla actually wrote in his papers that were found. I'm not sure exactly where the papers come from. Maybe you can clarify that. It's in your book, and that he actually received a lot of this information over a radio signal that he found.
Well, what you're talking about is, Tesla in 1899, he had a laboratory out at Colorado Springs, Colorado, and he was doing that's where he was doing his initial research on his the wireless transmission of electricity, because he was hoping that possibly there'd be a way that he could tap into thunderstorms and harness lightning to use for his experiments. And he actually had a radio receiver that he said that one night he started picking up what he felt was intelligent signals. I suppose something along the lines of like maybe Morse code or something along those lines. And of course, at that time, as far as anybody knows, nobody else had any radio transmitters. Not in the late 19th century like that, and Tesla probably was the only one who had a radio receiver. But I think possibly, what you may be thinking of is, Tesla had this unique ability where he would suddenly he would describe it as almost like a vision, where he would see, if he had been thinking about, possibly like a certain invention, like his AC motor, he had been thinking for quite a while on how an AC motor could be possible. And one day he was walking in a park with a friend, and he just had this vision where he could see this motor right in front of him, like it was already built, almost like a hologram. And he had the ability that he could actually, in his mind, he could turn this thing in all kinds of different directions. He could see, like all the different individual parts, and then all he'd have to do basically is then just, quickly copy it down, write it down somewhere. When he had this his first vision of the AC motor, he actually took a stick and drew it out in the dirt. So he wouldn't forget it. And, the majority of his greatest inventions came from that process, from this almost like visionary experiences that he would have.
So, and that's the episode of Ancient Aliens in which you appear, and I think it's kind of the questions posed towards the end is Tesla receiving off-world intelligence with these inventions that were 100 years ahead of their time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the speculations that they were referring to. Naturally, the show's called Ancient Aliens, so they're going to try to to skew the show and the questions and answers along those along those lines, that Tesla may have been a conduit, so to speak, from to extraterrestrial influence that was using Tesla to kind of help mankind along in its technological development. I basically said that that's possible. Sure. I'm not gonna say that it's not impossible, but I think that the human species is we are absolutely incredible. We have the mind power to conceive of, I think, practically anything. And I think Tesla is an excellent example of what we are capable of doing, as a species. And there have been a few individuals that have popped up in our history: Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci.
I was going to say, Giorgio did a show on Leonardo too.
Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne. There you go. But you have people like that who just, they are the ones that take us and leap us forward maybe a century or two in our scientific understanding and development, in just a short period of time. Now, of course, sometimes it takes the rest of us, the rest of the planet, quite a while to catch up. I mean, we're still today catching up with the ideas that Tesla had conceived back at the very beginning of the 20th century. And there's still a lot of things that Tesla was talking about that that we have no idea whether or not his conceptions are workable or not.
He didn't keep very many schematics, did he?
No, he didn't. No, he was not a note taker. He wrote a number of articles for magazines, periodicals of his day, newspaper articles or things like that. But for his own experiments, he basically relied on his assistants and his lab technicians to do the writing for him, to develop the schematics and things like that. Again, Tesla would see these inventions, in his visions, and then he would tell his assistants, what was required. So yeah, I mean, anything written by Tesla from his laboratories or things like that are very rare and very few and far between. So I mean, when people find things like this, original papers by Tesla, signed by Tesla, I mean, they're extremely valuable nowadays, and especially because when Tesla passed away, the United States government swooped in and grabbed anything they could get their hands on.
Yeah, see, I thought what you had said in your the beginning of your book there, the opening, it was I thought it was them papers you were talking about, but apparently they're not.
Well,
I confess I haven't read your book.
No, that's all right. Don't worry about it.
Which you need to go ahead and tell everybody where they can find your book and your website so they can check it out. We're coming up on break in a few minutes, and I want to make sure you get it out there before the break.
Sure. Well, the book that I've been referring to is called "The Lost Journals of Nikola Tesla," and you can find it. You can find it and all of my books on Amazon.com. Just go and type in my name, Tim Swartz. My website is conspiracyjournal.com, and I share that with Tim Beckley's Global Communications as well. And it's also the portal for the Conspiracy Journal newsletter, which is a free email newsletter that I put out every week. And it's basically an aggregate of all the interesting, strange and weird stories of the week that all of my stringers from all around the planet just send me, and I put them together and put out the newsletter for. Oh gosh, I got thousands of people who read it. So,
you were also providing commentary on Atlantis. So we have about 5 minutes or so till break, and we can carry that over till into the second hour. But what do you? Do you think Atlantis inspired ancient Egypt and all the monuments there? The Sphinx. Where do you think it was located? What's your take on Atlantis's legacy?
Are you talking about supposedly the lost continent of Atlantis, or that resort down in the Bermuda Islands, which that's really a great place,
No, I was talking about the lost continent. What's the difference with High Brazil? Probably High Brazil is going to be built in Cuba or someplace now as a rival resort.
That's right. That's right. Well, there've. I think that practically every ancient society and civilization has a mythology about a lost land and a lost people that came before them. And for some reason, the story of Atlantis really has, throughout the centuries, has just really seized people's imaginations. I mean, of course, you have, it came from an excellent source. I mean, it originated from Plato, and he claimed that that the story originated from Egyptian priest who talked about this great land of powerful people who lived beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which at that time the Pillars of Hercules supposedly was the Straits of Gibraltar, and with the conception that Atlantis was somewhere out in the Atlantic Ocean, but nobody really knows for sure. But I mean, you have the ancient Egyptians who some of them, some of these priests said that that their knowledge came from these people who survived some great cataclysm far in the past. I mean, they said it was maybe 2,300 years before Plato was even alive. And there's some interesting evidence that seems to show that maybe the pyramids and the Sphinx may have been built a lot earlier in time than we're thinking. I think they're talking like maybe 10,000 years ago, due to the alignment of the stars, especially I think it's the Orion stars that the pyramids complex there in Giza is built almost to mimic their position in the sky.
In the belt.
Right, as it was about 10,000 years ago, which, of course, I mean, to modern science, that's impossible. They said that there wasn't anybody of high enough intelligence 10,000 years ago or with the type of scientific knowledge to build such a complex. And then, on the other side, you have in South America, some of the old native people there. You have the Maya and the Inca who claimed that their ancestors actually came to South America from the east. And once again, I mean, they told stories of their ancestors coming across the Great Water because their land had been destroyed, from an earthquake or some other kind of great cataclysm. In fact, there's some very interesting sculptures and pictographs that seem to show just such a journey. It shows like people. Like canoeing in big boats across the water while a volcano is blowing up behind them. So I mean, whether or not the story, the mythological story that has been handed down to Plato about Atlantis was true or not, or if it was just a mythology, I do think though that that there have been societies, civilizations that have existed on this planet long before our civilization came about. And I mean, civilizations that existed before the last ice age, and maybe even a lot farther back than that.
There's our break, folks. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the first half of the show, and we're fixing to get started with the second half. And first, I'm going to ask you, we need your fiat money. So it ain't doing you no good, so send it to us. We could use it.
We still need to get, if you have any left over, we need to buy the island.
Oh, yeah, that island. It's only $1.7 million now, so kick it on over, put it in their island fund.
Yeah, we need a safe place for Lady Horse, Solaris, Vaubear. So
we can move the whole station there, and we can set up our own laws and constitution, and then you all can join us on rafts. We'll surround the island like they do in Tokyo.
Tim, before the break, I got started on something. I thought, I'll just wait till we come back. But you said Plato learned from the ancient Egyptians that this story of Atlantis goes way back, and I think that with the information that Dr. Schock, John Anthony West have discussed about the Sphinx being 12,000 years old, and this new discovery about Göbekli Tepe. There is some proof to the legends that Plato learned. Have you looked into the Sphinx, the watermarks carved into the side of it, Göbekli Tepe?
Well, the Sphinx, they actually did some investigation on it and found that it had, you referred to the watermarks, but I mean, we're talking about where it actually had water around its base up to a certain height at one time in its past. And which, I mean, if you've ever been to the Giza Plateau, it's pretty dry. I mean, the Nile isn't that far away, but I think even in the days when before they built the Ansar Dam, and it did its seasonal flooding, it never got that far up, and they seem to think that the Sphinx was, like you said, gosh, what was it, around, built maybe at least 12,000 years ago, when they know for a fact that the Giza Plateau was there's a lot wetter environments, and not only the watermarks caused by flooding, but erosion caused by rain at one time in the past. And of course, it has now a human face on it, and there seems to be some pretty good evidence that the Sphinx was actually had a lion's head rather than a human head on it. In its when it was initially built.
I fully agree with that myself, because the head is way out of proportion to the rest.
It is,
of the statue.
yeah.
And that would have never went over good in the HD.
No, definitely not. But the whole concept that there has been previous civilizations on this planet before our own, and when I'm talking about previous civilizations, I mean I'm talking about technological civilizations that were at one point, were as technologically advanced as we are now, and maybe even more advanced. We have come across some interesting archaeological evidence that has been basically ignored because it doesn't fit, with the dogma that everybody has agreed upon. That that mankind, I mean, has really only been on the planet. What is it, like 50,000 years or something like that? Is, I think,
modern
no more,
man,
yeah, modern man. I mean, no more than 100,000, 100,000 years. But there's some very compelling evidence that there were humans on this planet much further back, and some very interesting evidence of technologically advanced civilization. Of course, you're not going to find the remnants of,
just think if something
buildings
happened and we were destroyed, you wouldn't find nothing in 5,000 years.
Oh, no, that's just it. I mean, people have really challenged me on that. When I have said that, I definitely believe that, maybe as far back as a million years, maybe even more, that there were, technologically advanced, people on this planet, and they're like, well, where's the old buildings? Where's the rusted out cars or rockets or whatever they have it? And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? It doesn't take a long time for Mother Nature to obliterate everything. I mean, we talk right now about how plastic is permanent. That the plastics that we have now, are going to look the same, 5,000 years from now. Well, that's not true.
That's just until a bug learns how to eat it.
Right. Well, that. They have actually, of course, now we're talking about like the earlier versions of plastic, but I know that some of the older versions of like Barbie dolls are completely falling apart. They're basically turning into goo. Because the plastic is breaking down, and this was something that they had no idea.
We were off the air, I'm told. Maybe we're not. You might as well keep talking. We're being recorded anyway.
Oh, okay. But that, buildings and other type.
Well, I'm still trying to get the studio, and we got the studio back. Now we got to get our guests back. I'm not sure what happened. My internet went down. I got thrown out of the...
Yes, that's kind of odd. I see we were talking about dead air on A, and that showed up before we went off the air.
He dropped completely too. Yeah, they said that we were off air on A before we went off air. Let me see if I can get him back now. We're back now.
All right.
So, gee, I must have made somebody mad today.
And we're back.
Yeah, but blame it on the gas. It's not our fault. It's this new information from the new guy.
That's right.
Something that kind of struck me here when you were talking. Mm-hmm. You mentioned people living in the earth.
Right.
And we talked about Tesla out west.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that the Cherokee believed they were saved by the ant people. Do you think there might be a connection between them?
Oh, well, what, you mean between Tesla and the underground races and the ant people? Well, I don't know.
Maybe it's the same race or something?
That's what it sounds like it.
Well, I don't know. I could seriously say that I have never run across anything that had Tesla interested or knowledgeable about underground races or civilizations or anything like that. Tesla did. He did speculate that there were other races out in outer space. I think that was one of the things that got him in trouble with some of his financiers and some of his distractors. They kind of use that against him. Like, oh well, Tesla, his ideas are stupid, and you can't trust this guy because he believes in men from Mars, that sort of thing.
Well, Haley actually said the idea for his compass come from a alien that crawled to his window or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is nothing new. I mean, that has been, there have been a number of people over the centuries who have claimed that a lot of their best ideas have come from sources, supernatural or what have you sources, and not necessarily from them. Tesla was actually pretty pragmatic man. I mean, he didn't believe in psychic phenomena or ghost or any of that stuff. He did wonder whether or not having more along the lines of the power of the human mind. Possibly with its like there'd be some kind of connection with the universe and the way that the human mind would have the potential to tap into almost like a universal knowledge that is available to all of us. Almost like an Akashic record that's been talked about before. But as for at one point Tesla had been approached by I think it was like a spiritualist society, and they were wanting Tesla to endorse their ideas, and he was he was just like, get out of here, you're a bunch of crazy people. And so I think it would be interesting to see what Tesla would have to say about some of the wilder ideas that are being postulated nowadays about him. I don't think he'd be very happy.
I don't know. He was kind of a man of mystery. He might have enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, as he got older, he developed an interest in Eastern mysticism, Eastern philosophy and stuff. But you look at some of those some of the ideas that are put across, by some of those philosophies, and they sound almost a lot like the modern ideas of quantum mechanics. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that Tesla would develop an interest in that sort of thing. Of course, Tesla didn't have a lot of faith in Einstein and his theory of relativity, at the time.
Einstein was once asked, "How does it feel to be the smartest man in the world?" And his answer was, "I don't know. You'll have to ask Nikola Tesla."
Yeah. That's, it's really funny because Einstein did have a lot of respect for Tesla, but it didn't go the other way around. Tesla felt that Einstein was getting it wrong, but I think actually what we know now about the universe, I think both of them, both Einstein and Tesla, had correct viewpoints on how the universe works in cosmology. You're just basically looking at different sides of the same coin.
Right.
And of course, Einstein, he was very distrustful of quantum mechanics. He said that God doesn't play dice with the universe.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. I'm not sure if anybody else does, but it isn't. Quantum mechanics really messed him up. Einstein, that is. I
Mm-hmm.
think Tesla had a foothold on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tesla saw the universe as, being permeated by fields of energy, and of course, you have to understand that, people like Tesla and Einstein, I mean, they could only go as far as really the technology that was available to them at the time. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, they could use their great minds to come up with formulas and theories about how certain things would work, but unless you had the technology or the advanced mathematics to advance your theories, I mean, you basically can only go as far as a certain point, and then you were stuck. And it's up to the future generations who have the abilities and the technology that weren't available, to these people to take it further. Unfortunately, a lot of times, especially with people like Tesla. I mean, Tesla was eccentric. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And in his later days, the unfortunate thing is that despite all the wonderful things that he did to advance mankind, he basically died almost forgotten. I mean, he definitely was broke, and hardly anybody remembered him anymore. And I mean, and that continued. I mean, oh my God, when I was in school, I wasn't taught about Tesla. Nobody. I can't remember any of my textbooks that talked about Nikola Tesla being the one who constructed the first generating system at Niagara Falls. Everything was Edison, Edison, Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Tesla. I mean, Tesla
Edison wasn't a very nice man.
Oh, no, no, no. Well, I
He
mean,
was a
Edison,
ruthless businessman.
he very much was a ruthless businessman, and I mean, and you look at the things that Edison did to Tesla. I mean, there's a perfect example. I mean, of course, Edison. He was a proponent of the direct current system. I mean, he had even before Tesla even came to the United States, he had developed the DC electricity in New York, where there were a number of areas that were wired for electricity. And the important thing about DC current at that time is that it didn't travel very far. I think, like maybe a mile, half a mile, something like that, before it had to be bumped up again. So that meant that there had to be a power station, every half a mile to a mile or so, which is just, wildly inefficient. I mean,
DC power lines were huge too.
Oh yeah,
Made a heck of a mess in the city.
Right. So here you have this young upstart like Tesla coming in, with his AC motor, which would blew DC just right out of the water, and that honked Edison off, because I mean that was his big moneymaker, and naturally he's going to fight that. And I mean, he used every dirty trick in the book. I mean, he, as you well know, I mean, he used public demonstrations where he used AC current to electrocute, like dogs, and even an elephant at one time, to show how dangerous AC current was.
You can actually find videos on YouTube of him.
Oh, I know.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. Thomas, remember back in March, or April, May, somewhere like that, when we had Peter Bergman on talking about the legacy of Herman Melville and how he just, after he wrote Moby Dick, he just kind of disappeared into oblivion. And, it's the same thing happened with Tesla, but it's nice that people like Tim and other enthusiasts of these people see what they achieved, and they keep the person's accomplishments in the forefront.
Tesla's now getting credit for stuff
where
he wasn't before. I mean, they took the radio away from Marconi and give it to Tesla.
Right.
Marconi might have built the radio, but he built it with every piece of equipment that Tesla designed.
Well, I mean, Marconi came from a very rich aristocratic Italian family that had a lot of influence not only in Europe but in the United States. So it's really it's no surprise that that there was that influence there to take the patent away from Tesla and hand it over to Marconi. Fortunately, that was reversed, but only after Tesla had passed away, so he never got to really enjoy, the fruits of his invention. Well, and I mean, there are still people today who are putting in patent applications only to find that Tesla had beat them to it. So, I mean, that's how far advanced that Tesla was thinking, back in the turn of the century. I mean, when was it? In the 1930s, well after Tesla's heyday. He gave an interview for a New York newspaper where he talked about his death ray, that he had come up with an idea for a death ray, which now we know. I mean, this was the first conception of what we'd call a particle beam weapon. And this was something that Tesla had come up with, back, way back then.
So it was Tesla just doing his experiments for the benefit of other people and competing businessmen. We're really looking at the income potential from these experiments, and you have a conflict there between greed and just profits over people.
A lot of times, yes. Tesla
was he like a naive businessman?
Oh, yeah, very much. Well, he was in his younger days. I mean, he was interested in making money, because if he had money, he could then continue with his research, with developing other stuff. But he wasn't a money maker like Edison was. Edison, he invented things to make money. And that's rather than making money to finance more inventions. I mean, Edison was there to make money, while Tesla, he was an inventor. I mean, and he was interested also in benefiting mankind. That was where his whole idea of the wireless transmission of energy came from. I mean, he wanted to be able to provide electricity for anybody who wanted it. And if somebody had came up with a way that they could put a meter, say, on everybody's house and make some money off of it, that probably would have been okay with Tesla, but he was just interested in, because with his wired AC system, not everybody was going to be able to get onto the grid, all across the planet. With his wireless transmission of energy, anybody who had the proper receiver could pick up these energy transmissions, and that's what he was interested in. I mean, he was very and his later ideas of, say, like the Tesla shields and even the death ray. I mean, his conception was that if every country had the death ray, that it's almost like the whole idea about and I can't remember what the name of it is, but if every country had nuclear weapons, then nobody would dare mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
Right. But
from what I heard, he was going to send a piece of it to one country, another piece to another country, and another piece to another country, and force them to work together.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. If every country had the death ray and could defend themselves, against aircraft or missiles that were going to attack them, then what's the reason? What's the use of trying to attack somebody if everybody had the capability to defend themselves? And that's what Tesla's idea was. And and he approached the United States first, but because at that time, Edison was he was on the board of the I can't think of what the term is now, but like
the Energy Commission, I think.
It wasn't it was like the had to do with the military, like the group that said yay or nay on providing finance for the development of new weapons and technology for the military. And Edison was a board member of that group, and he just immediately made sure that nothing from Tesla was ever considered for development. So Tesla then went and approached Soviet Union. And I don't think he went to Germany on that, but definitely like Yugoslavia, because he was born in that area, and I think that's one of the reasons why when he did pass away, the United States was very quick to swoop in and grab every bit of information and papers and technology that Tesla still had remaining, because they wanted to make sure that the Soviet Union didn't get a hold of this stuff before the United States. But as it has it, more than likely, the Germans had already gotten a hold of a lot of this material in the 1930s from their East Coast spy ring that they had, because the rumors of the Nazi flying saucers that came about, probably the propulsion systems were based on Tesla's research into field propulsion, or anti-gravity, if you want to use the the science fiction term of it.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that Tesla was the actual designer of the Niagara power plant that first lit up Buffalo.
That had always been Tesla's dream when he was a kid. He saw a picture one time, I guess, of Niagara Falls, and he just had this vision that all this energy, all this water rushing over those rocks, that you could tap into that and create energy, and he wanted to be the guy to do it, and he did. I mean, he was the visionary that made it possible.
I've actually visited the place.
Oh, well, and that up until recently, the generators that were being used at the Niagara facilities were the original generators that Tesla and his crew built.
They sure were.
built from scratch too.
I know, it's a pretty awesome place.
Yeah.
It's huge.
To me, it's just amazing that you have these people who had the ability to build these dynamos. Without any previous template, so to speak. I mean, they designed them.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I keep getting knocked.
Yeah.
We're back, but Tim's not back. Studio's up.
But
I guess Edison's mad talking about Tesla.
Well, obviously, the people who keep knocking us off the air are Edison fans.
Something. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, this is weird.
It is.
I usually don't get knocked offline. I'm usually one of the better connections here.
Okay, so you don't think that's a planned knocking us off the air when
we're doing as well, Niagara Falls.
I just make a sarcastic comment about getting the guest infuriating NSA enough, and they knock us off the air, and it really happens. So tell me we're not being monitored.
Well, I don't know why the NSA would be upset about us talking about Tesla.
We're just joking around. It's my internet. They're doing some work out on the highway not far from me, and last week or two, until they get the highway through there, I'm probably going to do this a little bit. The worst part about it is I'm locked out of the chat room until somebody boots me. You get kind of addicted to the chat room around here. We've got some very smart people who join us here at the station, and even people with letters behind their names. Now, if we just figure out what the letters were.
Tim, we have 17 minutes left. Do you think if we got into elongated skulls,
sure.
we could get knocked off the air one more time? Come, just do it for the team.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you talk about the skulls found in Peru.
Peru, Central America. Thomas has had Brian Forster on talking about that topic. What's your insight into it? Have you ever seen them?
Oh yeah. They're gosh, where are they from? Is it like Paracas, I think?
They're from Paracas. Well, the main ones are from Paracas, but they have been found all over the world.
Right. Well, I think the ones in Paracas are really unique, because a lot of the detractors they say, oh well, they're nothing more than skulls that were elongated as a result of cradle boarding. Which there are a lot of even certain tribes and Native Americans did that, where they would basically strap pieces of wood on a baby's skull when they're young and soft to shape their skulls for whatever reason. And, that alone is interesting because you see a lot of different societies that have had no connections, yet they're doing the same thing to achieve that interesting shape to their head. And you could have all kinds of speculation on why these diverse societies were doing that and trying to achieve that look. But the Paracas skulls are interesting because they don't resemble the traditional cradle boarded skulls because there is a lot more surface area, for want of a better term, to these skulls.
A lot of them didn't have the cranial crack either.
Right, and the thing that gets me, a person's skull only has so much bone to it, So you can go and play with their shapes, and but it doesn't increase the surface area or the mass of the skull. While the skulls located in Paracas, they're a lot bigger. than than a normal, human being, Homo sapiens skull should be. I know that just earlier this year, supposedly there was some DNA analysis done on some of the I can't remember what it was that what they're able to get off of these skulls that they used for the DNA. But what I seem to remember, I think it was kind of like almost like snuck out of the area. But the reports that came back said that that the skulls were showing a new human-like creature, very distinct from Homo sapiens and even Neanderthals, but definitely part of the human family, but distinct in a certain way, in different ways. Now, of course, there has been a lot of attacks, done on these tests. Naturally, skeptics are saying that that the laboratories used weren't didn't really have the capabilities to do these kinds of tests, to just allegations of outright fraud. So it's really difficult to tell right now, what's truth and what's not so true. I'll have to hold my tongue here.
Have you ever heard of the Star Child skull?
Oh yeah.
Look at that.
Lloyd Piles, baby, so to speak. The late Lloyd Piles, so to speak. That I don't know. That one. I don't think that it is as compelling as the Paraka skulls. Because you only had it was like the upper part of the skull. You didn't have its jaw, and so it's hard to say whether or not you were actually dealing with something different, or if maybe you were, you had the skull of somebody who had, what is it? I can't think of it. It was water on the brain, basically. But I can't remember what the scientific term of it was.
Is that the hydrocephalic, something like that?
Right. Now, Lloyd.
I know I butchered.
No, that's closer than I could come to it.
Yeah.
Lloyd claimed that he was able to get some microchondria DNA sampling done, and he claimed that it showed, I think, at least one of the parents of the child was not a traditional Homo sapien. Right. But after he passed away, I'm not sure where his research has gone to this point, whether or not somebody else is going to pick up the ball and run with it.
Most likely Amy Vickers will be.
Yeah.
I've interviewed her. She's the expert here for the United States for it, and that was before Lloyd died.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that using DNA on these mysterious skulls. That it's really the only way to go, but it's going to be extremely difficult to get a proper analysis because most of these places are not willing to touch these things with a 10-foot pole. They're afraid that the controversy is going to drive them out of business, and they're right. They are absolutely right. Unfortunately, this kind of research has such a stigma to it that even if you found a laboratory that is reputable and can do the proper research, just the fact that they would dare to even attempt to do an analysis on these types of fringe, and I'll put quotation marks around this, fringe things, is going to, it's going to put such a mark on their reputation that nobody is going to, no other laboratory or research facility is going to go to them ever again. And that's the unfortunate thing about all of this, is that you can have the best, the most compelling evidence in the world, but most of these laboratories or scientists or what have you are not going to look at it or touch it because of the fear of ridicule and the fear that would be their career ender. And they are absolutely correct. You look at the DNA analysis that was done last year on the alleged Bigfoot, hair and fecal matter and things like that. The doctor who did the analysis, she may have done everything correctly, but I guess the way that she released the evidence was not peer approved, and so that just put everything into doubt. So she may have done everything right except for the release of the information, and then that put everything into doubt, and then it just escalates from there.
If some of these scientists lose their jobs, because of their research, being ridiculed, they probably don't want to find employment as a paranormal research radio host
or writer.
Yeah,
yeah. We don't do this stuff to get rich. That's not going to happen. And it's always funny because I always hear these detractors and skeptics. They're like, oh well, you just write these books and do this research to make money. Well, yeah, I would like to make some money off of this. What's wrong with you wouldn't go and say to somebody who's working in a factory or working in the library or anything like that. He goes, oh well, you're just working in the library because you want to make a living. Well, yeah, of course I am. But for some reason, because you attempt to make a career out of investigating these kinds of things, that somehow that makes you a bad person. Oh well, you should be doing this for free. Well, the hell with that.
It's more like a calling. Like Tesla's doing his research. That's what he feels like he was put here to do. Edison's looking at things solely for the profit value.
Well, see, now there's somewhere there in there's a balance that can be maintained.
Sure.
Yeah. See, that's the life is all about balance.
Right.
Of that.
Right. And now somebody who is, writing books or whatever to make money and just making stuff up just to be sensational because they know that this is the kind of stuff that the audience, is looking for just to make it.
We've talked to a few of them.
Yeah. That's not right. That would be the same way if somebody say like writing a history book that that skews the subject to whatever dogma that they're trying to put out there for a particular audience who would eat that kind of stuff up. No, that's not right. You don't do that. And the same goes for this field. At least I do. I try to approach this subject just like I did. As a journalist, clear clearly, concisely, and conversationally. You vet your information. You verify, and if you can't get the proper verification, well, then you set it aside until you do. Now I think
I really hate to interrupt you, but I want to make sure you get your website out there. And again, before we get off air, we only got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and when's your show on so people could tune in?
Mm-hmm. Well, my website is conspiracyjournal.com. And spelled just like it sounds, conspiracyjournal.com, just one big word. And our webcast is called The Outer Edge, and you can visit the website. It's theouteredgeradio.com, and it's heard Sunday nights at midnight Eastern Standard Time on the PSN radio network.
Okay,
nice.
So
go ahead.
Okay, and yeah, you can hear Tim talk about his high standards in journalism during the show, along with Mike Mott too.
Yes, that's correct. That's my co-host, Mike Mott, and we usually have we try to get all kinds of interesting guests every week.
He was an awesome guest here recently.
Yeah, Mike is excellent, and I tell you something, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of, say, like the Bible and a lot of these other ancient texts. That I'm always in awe sometimes when I hear him talk about these things. It's like, how can you remember that?
Yeah, and I did find the biblical passage about the underground people, and that's in Revelation chapter 4, verse 3.
Okay.
Is that where he talks about them hiding under the ground or something?
Yeah. I don't have enough time to look it up, but we'll do it next week. Hey, thanks a lot, Tim. That was a lot of fun.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm very happy to be on your show.
Great, and I hope to get you back soon.